Hey everyone, welcome to the Daily for August 6th. I'm Greg Lawless alongside Nick Furshaw. And Nick, lots going on yesterday around the league. We're going to start though with the ESPN2 game. Columbus traveling out to Philadelphia and they get the win 2-1 at PPL Park.
Yeah, it's sort of back to business for the Crew last week who lost to Chivas USA, and I think there were a lot of concerns about where the Crew might be right now. Are they struggling like some of these other teams we've seen, the Galaxy, other teams like that? Not so much. Steven Lenhart goes out and gets 2 goals. They go on the road. They beat Philadelphia. This is a result Columbus is going to get, you know, nearly week in, week out. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat for the most part. And like I said, back to business.
A good performance from the Crew all around. I think defensively they look pretty strong as well. Now, Houston, on the other hand, they actually played pretty well against Morelia in the semifinals of the SuperLiga, but they couldn't get the job done in Morelia, getting a goal 2 minutes after the break. Ended up going up 1-0, and that was the final score.
Yeah, if you're an MLS fan, obviously you're rooting for Houston to make it to the final. They get to see New England there again. But on another level, you're rooting for Houston to sort of use SuperLiga as leverage. We've seen a lot of teams use SuperLiga as leverage to sort of resurrect their MLS season, right? Unable to do it, we'll see if they can carry over any of the momentum that they did build in the tournament, even though they lost in the semifinals, back to that regular season schedule where they're struggling a little bit.
Well, it sets up a final now between New England and Morelia. That'll be in the next couple of weeks. Of course, the good news for Houston, Jeff Cameron, injured for most of the season, came back and played 20 minutes. Looked pretty good in that as well. Now, the last game on the docket last night, Dallas hosting European champions Inter Milan. It ended up 2-2. It was 2-1 until the very end, where sort of Jeff Cunningham a little dicey on the dive going in, but they get the penalty and they end up with a 2-2 draw.
Yeah, Jeff Cunningham takes the dive and they get the call. FC Dallas ends up with the draw. But what was more interesting to me was the crowd that was at Pizza Hut Park. I think FC Dallas has endured a lot of criticism about their attendance and how many people are showing up at the games. That stadium is entirely different when there are a lot of people there. There were a lot of people there last night. It was great.
Packed house and
104 degrees too.
It was 104 degrees. Anyway. But Inter Milan, of course, they brought their big boys and they were all starting. Dio Milito was in there. Samuel Eto'o got a goal as well, and George John. Never would have expected that one, but he got the header to get out the other scoring for Dallas. Now let's look ahead to the weekend. A lot of action going on. We're going to start with DC United traveling up to Gillette Stadium to take on the New England Revolution, the debut for Ben Olsen as interim head coach.
Right. Standings-wise, this game might not have as much relevance as some of the other games on the docket, but this is the debut of interim coach Ben Olsen, who this week took over for Kurt Onalfo, who was sort of controversially let go in DC. We've talked to a handful of DC players, and they said it was, you know, quote, a heavy, emotional week. This is Ben Olsen's debut. This is a position that he's admitted he was sort of not forced into, but sort of dropped in abruptly. So this is his debut. We'll see how he can do against New England, who, you know, there aren't many other teams you'd want to play in your debut. Playing New England's not so bad. It's better than playing the Galaxy.
Yeah, it is right now. Well, the New England Revolution, of course, they do have some momentum after getting into the final for SuperLiga, so they'll be looking to build on that. They have some injuries to deal with. Kevin Alston will be out. Marco Perovic also both out, injured during that SuperLiga semifinal match with Puebla. And then it comes on Sunday. That's going to be the big one that we're all waiting for. The New York Red Bulls traveling to the Chicago Fire.
Yeah, and this is certainly the biggest game of this weekend, and I could argue this is the biggest game of the season thus far. You've got 5 designated players on the field. Rafa Marquez set to make his debut for the Red Bulls. You've already got Thierry Henry, Juan Pablo Angel. On the other side of the ball, Neddy Castillo set to make his debut for the Fire. We'll see if Freddie Ljungberg fits into that starting lineup or if he comes into as a reserve for the Fire. And the Fire looking to sort of resurrect their season now. They've made the moves. They've taken the initiative, said, we're going to be contenders in the East and on to the MLS Cup. We'll see if they can do it for the Red Bulls. It's all about Rafa Marquez, man. This is his debut. This is what people have been waiting for. See what he can do in a center midfield role as opposed to his center back role that he's played for the Mexican national team.
Well, for New York, the expectations just continue to build as they start to sign all these players as well. And the same, I think, has to be said for Chicago. Lots of expectations for both of these teams to get results. That game is on ESPN2 on Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And if you're looking for some expectations for some big names and things like that, don't forget Saturday night's game between the Los Angeles Galaxy and Real Madrid at Rose Bowl out in Pasadena, California. And that game is on Fox Soccer Channel as well. That's all we have for you today on The Daily, but we'll be back next week.